Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Center for the Women of New York Career Skills Workshops. I am Cecilia Venezuela. I am the president of the center, and today we have Gail Lewis presenting on public speaking for career advancement and acing the interview. Thank you so much, Gail, for being here with us today. In case you don't know about the Center for the Women of New York helps women overcome the financial violence, social wellness, and legal issues by raising awareness and advocating for full gender equality for women, understanding their needs and connecting them with CWNY services, nonprofit partner organizations, and public resources to aid, uplift, and address their challenges. We're a nonprofit 501c3 organization dedicated to women empowerment and gender equality since 1987. Our volunteers, members, sponsors, advisory board, and board of directors all together make CWNY's mission possible. These are some of our programs, our current programs. Our philosophy is that when we help women, families become self-sufficient, making our entire community stronger. We have a referrals and advocacy program. So if we don't have a service that you're looking for, we will make sure that we guide you in the right direction. We have financial literacy workshops, career workshops such as this one, women in crisis and caregiver support groups, one-on-one tax preparation, that's for next year now. We just had it in person. We are having gardening and sustainability workshops, ESL classes, and legal support team that responds to your inquiries via email. Again, like these are the topics for. We already had two of the series. We're having a lovely program at Fort Totten in Bayside, Queens. We're gardening, growing a vegetable and pollinated flower garden. They will hopefully become a community garden and will be able to bring the food to those that need it the most. We also have an exhibit going on. The next dates are the 11th and the 18th of this month. It is an exhibit called Artivism. It's an initiative sponsored by Adelphi University. It focuses on the process more than on the end product, and they're amazing pieces of art. So come join us. And then we do have a yoga day, the 8th International Yoga Day celebration this coming Saturday. So if you feel like doing yoga on a front lawn of a beautiful building, beautiful park, please join us on Saturday. And with that, we have Gail again. Thank you so much for being here with us. She will be speaking about public speaking and acing your interviews. If you'd like to see this workshop or past workshops, we have resume writing and other topics on this series. You can find them in our website at cwny.org/past-events. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them on the chat or in the Q&A box. And Gail will be responding to your questions. And if you dialed in and you're not, seeing us, you can now use the chat box or the Q&A box. You can also email your questions to events@cwny.org, and Lana, our amazing volunteer, will be monitoring that email address. Oops. All right. Now I will invite Gail to introduce yourself. Again, thank you so much for being with us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to make your acquaintance this afternoon. I am Gail Lewis, professor at the City University of New York, also known as CUNY. And today, it's my pleasure to be here with you for this presentation, which is co-sponsored, of course, by the Center for the Women of New York, and also by me, Gail Lewis. So I am a professor of communications at CUNY, the City University of New York. And additionally, I am also a Toastmaster. So I know right now you're probably wondering, what is a Toastmaster? A toaster, or maybe someone who likes to make toast? Well, a Toastmaster is someone who, believe it or not, likes to make speeches. Toastmasters International is an international not-for-profit, and it's basically a club where you learn how to become a better public speaker. And there are local clubs all over the world, and there are so many right here in New York City. So if you'd like to know more about Toastmasters, please go to toastmasters.org for more information, and also to find a club in your area. So today, it's my absolute pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. Thank you for joining us both live, and maybe you're watching it on YouTube. And either way, thank you for joining us for this public speaking for career advancement and acing your job interview public speaking workshop. This workshop is interactive. So at the end of this workshop, you'll have a chance to raise your hand and mute your camera and answer a question, answer an interview question in 1 to 2 minutes live. And that way you can get immediate feedback about how you're doing on interview questions, what you're doing well, and some areas for improvement. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Hi, Selena, good afternoon. And we'll answer them as we go along as well. So let's get started with the interactive workshop. Think about it for a moment. Who gets hired and who gets ahead? Well, who gets hired? People with great experience get hired. People with excellent credentials and maybe the right education or the right degrees, these are people who get hired. Who gets ahead in the workplace? People who perform, people who bring in revenue, people who always perform well on quarterly or biannual reviews. These are people who get ahead. Who gets hired and gets ahead? People who present themselves well through good public speaking techniques. And that's one of the reasons why we're here today, to learn good public speaking and interviewing techniques. So think about it for a moment. What do you have agency over? Unfortunately, unless we ourselves are the business owners or the bosses, none of us have control over the hiring managers in our corporations. And we definitely don't have control over our bosses, but we do have control over our public speaking, interviewing, and presentation skills. Just like learning to roller skate or learning how to cook or learning how to take care of a newborn baby, public speaking is a skill that we can all learn, practice, improve, and even master. So let's examine today public speaking in 2 areas. First, let's look at acing your job interview. And second, let's look at using the tools in public speaking for career advancement. So let's start with acing your interview. First, whether you're in person on an interview in front of 5 people live, or whether you're remote at home sitting in front of a camera like we are right now, first and foremost, make sure that you feel confident in where you're sitting and what you're wearing. When you're answering interview questions about yourself and about your background, tell a short, succinct story. Structure your story as you would an essay. Remember the 5th grade writing an essay? Well, it's the same idea in writing a speech. You're going to write an introduction, a body, and a conclusion in your speech. So let's practice. The first question I can think of is, tell me about yourself, or tell me about your background. When you hear this question, which is almost always asked on interviews, this is your opportunity to shine. Weave a story when you answer the question, tell me about yourself, or tell me about your background. Weave a story that makes you the best person for this job, couched in the story of your professional background, your education, and the special story that only you can tell. Think about it for a few moments before the job interview. Ask yourself, how did I first become interested in accounting? If that's your field, what piqued my interest in accounting? Or let's say you're going for a job in nursing, or maybe a nursing school interview. Was there an event in your life that pointed you in the direction of nursing? Think about that. Think about the story that goes along with it. Let's say you're interested in engineering and you're going for a job as an electrical engineer. Maybe you took a class, or maybe you have a mentor who piqued your interest in engineering. Think about that story. All of these situations, all of these examples are different ways that you can weave your own personal story into the job. When someone says, tell me about yourself, or tell me about your background, think about the unique reasons why you went into that career field, or why you're interested in that job, and add those details to your story. I've both been an interviewee and an interviewer. And as an interviewer, someone who's doing the interviewing, I know that after all of the interviewees have gone, and myself and all of the interviewers are sitting around the table discussing the possible candidates, the way that we talk about the candidates, the way that we remember them, is by things like, remember the one who told the story about the pink tutu? Or remember the gentleman who was talking about his mentor and how his mentor got him interested in accounting? The stories are what we remember. So make yours something that is memorable and impactful. That'll put you way ahead of the pack in the hiring process. So that's the first really important question. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about your background. Here's another. Your work style. You will get questions on interviews about how you work. Think about it. Employers want to know that you A, will work, that you B, will work well, and C, that you'll work well with others. So they're very interested in your work style, and they'll ask about it. Employers want to know how you work best so that they can provide that type of environment, or to make sure that the way that you work is congruent with the environment that already exists. And more importantly, they want to know that you're going to be a team player. Do some research on the job that you're going for to determine whether a more independent or more teamwork oriented approach will be required for that position. Then, using your own personal work experience, craft a story about how you work and how you work best. The next really important question that you find on job interviews is, how do you keep organized? Or do you prefer working as a team or working independently? So let's look at both of these questions. First, how do you keep organized? We all have had that coworker who is a complete scatterbrain, whose desk looks like a tornado hit it. Are they really organized, and are they effective? Who knows? But before you get the job, your potential employer wants to know how you keep organized. So what you're going to do is create a story of the tools that you use to get organized. Drop the names of the apps you use to show your grasp of emerging work tools. Have you helped other people get organized? Weave that into the story as well. Maybe you helped your sister organize her new apartment after a divorce. Talk about how you used your organizational skills to help her out. Is your closet organized in Roy G. Biv? That is your closet organized in all of the colors of the rainbow, starting with red and ending in violet? If so, that's a great organizational technique. Talk about it on your interview if asked about how you keep organized. If I can tell you, full disclosure, During the pandemic, I reorganized my closet in Roy G. Biv. That's the colors of the rainbow. So now in the morning when I open my closet door, everything just seems so well organized and it's so easy to get dressed for work. So if you haven't already organized your closet in color by color, I suggest that you do it. Not only will it make it easier to get to work, to get dressed for work in the morning, but it will also be a great story that you can tell on a job interview. And you can show off how organized you really are. The next question, do you prefer working as a team or working independently? Again, research the work culture and create a story of how you work best, showing that you can add value either way. Now that we've looked at how to use public speaking in getting the job on a job interview, let's look at using public speaking for career advancement. Now that you've gotten the job, you have to keep it. Hard skills like your work experience and your education and your retraining, those get you the job. But your soft skills, like your public speaking, help you to keep the job. Good public speaking skills are essential to keeping and excelling in the workplace. So let's look at it. Think about it. When do you speak in the workplace? Do you present regularly at work, or is it more of a sporadic or impromptu speaking style that you use at work? Maybe you do a regular quarterly report presentation every quarter, and it can be brutal when presenters do not have public speaking skills. Or maybe you're called on just more sporadically or in a more impromptu or off the cuff way to speak about your work, projects. That's a different type of speaking. That's impromptu speaking. So first, think about how you present at work. Do you present in formal presentations, maybe every quarter, or are you just called on in an impromptu way to give presentations? So either way, whether you are presenting in a prepared way or whether you're presenting in an impromptu way, there's always a plan of attack. So for prepared speeches, that might be the quarterly report or the annual report, plan and practice. First, know your audience. Excuse me. Second, plan. And third, practice. So let's look at this. First, think about it. Who are you presenting to? Craft your message to your audience. If your audience only wants the bottom line numbers, don't weigh your presentation down with other things. You wouldn't make the same presentation to a group of freshman undergraduate students as you would to a third-year law school class, would you? No, you would tailor that message to each of those constituencies. And that's what you want to do. You want to tailor your message to your audience. Think about who you're presenting to and what their needs are. Second, when presenting a prepared speech, plan. I know it sounds old school, but write out an outline. Include, just like if you were writing an essay in the third grade, include an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. This presentation outline can be put right on the bottom of your slides if you're using Google Slides or PowerPoint. And that way you can read along as you make your presentation for a seamless presentation. Or you can have notes next to you on a tablet or maybe on a legal pad so that you can refer to them as you're making your presentation. I would say to avoid putting your notes on your phone, just because your phone, even if it's the newest, biggest iPhone, it can be a little small to look at, and it will take away from your eye contact with your audience. And if you forget to put your phone on airplane mode, your best friends could be texting you at the same time that you're making your presentation. So the best way to do it is have another device next to you if one is available, or go super old school with notes next to you on a legal pad, or put those notes right underneath your slides. That way you can see them, but everyone else will not. But try to stay away from the phone if at all possible. So in addition to crafting your message to your audience and to planning, make sure you practice. Practice out loud. Practice to your family, practice to your friends, practice to your loved ones. If you have little brothers and sisters in your home, practice to them. That's why they're there, for you to torture them. If you have no one around to practice with, practice to the camera on your phone or even in the mirror. If you're presenting on Zoom, set yourself up in a Zoom room and present to yourself. Anything that you can do to practice out loud. The actual act of practicing out loud and hearing yourself say the words will help you be much more conversational when you give your presentation, and that will boost your confidence as well. And speaking of confidence, that brings me to nerves. Think about how nervous we can get when giving presentations online or in person. Having to stand up in front of a group of strangers, whether you're remotely or in person, can be absolutely nerve-wracking. And feeling nervous is absolutely normal. Even the most seasoned public speakers get nervous. It's just what happens. It's absolutely a natural reaction, especially when presenting in front of strangers. So what can you do to overcome your nervousness? To overcome your nervousness, practice and prepare. So practice ahead of time out loud and also be prepared. Additionally, in addition to practicing, in addition to being prepared, find more outlets to practice presentation skills. So in your own community, join the PTA, join your local civic association. Yes, those still exist. Or get involved in your mosque, in your temple, in your church. Become a scout leader if you have children. Do something in your community so that you get out more often to make presentations. Even if it's just presenting the minutes from the last meeting, or the treasurer's report, if you're the treasurer at your civic association. Just those little presentations will help build your confidence. And then with that extra flow of confidence, you will become a better public speaker. This kind of community involvement, maybe in your church or in your PTA or however in your community, will not only give you many opportunities to speak publicly, but it also will help others as well. So it's a win-win for everyone. You'll get more confidence and you'll get more experience as a public speaker, and your community will benefit too. That's a great thing. Additionally, you can join Toastmasters. If you would like to get more practice public speaking, whether it be with prepared speeches or with impromptu speeches, join Toastmasters. As I said at the beginning of this presentation, Toastmasters is an international not-for-profit, and it's basically a club where you give speeches. It's a public speaking and leadership club. So you can join a club that meets either online or maybe near your job or your home, and you can go to the meetings once a week or twice a month or whatever time you have available to go. When you join Toastmasters, you'll have an opportunity at every meeting to speak. And here's the really important thing. After you give presentations, you'll get immediate feedback on your presentations. So you'll know the areas that you did well in, and you'll also know the areas that you need improvement in. And you'll also get coaching on how to improve as well. So if you're interested in Toastmasters, joining a local Toastmasters club in your area or online, visit toastmasters.org for more information. Especially now with the pandemic, there are so many clubs that meet online. You might even be able to join a club that meets in England and join them and learn public speaking from them as well. The opportunities are just endless. And lastly, to overcome your nervousness, please remember to breathe. While presenting, relax, relax, and pay attention not to yourself, but to your message. Remember, this presentation is about the audience. It's about the people you're presenting to. It's not about you. So shift your focus. Remember your audience, and more importantly, remember the message that you want to give to your audience. Take a deep breath and remember to breathe. So we learned a lot today. So let's recap. Today we learned how to ace our job interviews through questions, and also how to use public speaking to get ahead. So now let's make this interactive and practice with interview questions. But before we get there, please keep in touch. If you have additional questions, you can ask them now in the chat, or if you'd like, you can always contact me, Professor Gail Lewis. I'm at Queensborough Community College at the City University of New York, CUNY, and you can email me at glewis@qcc.cuny.edu. And if you're interested in joining a Toastmasters club near you, visit toastmasters.org to find a club either near your job or your home, or maybe to find a club that meets online. And lastly, I'd like to thank everyone who took time out of their day today to join us. And of course, thank you to the Center for the Women of New York, CWNY. Remember, they are a not-for-profit. So if at all possible, please remember to, if you can, make a donation to them. They do so much great work for the women of New York and for New York in general. So now this is going to be the fun part of of this workshop. We're going to make it interactive. Let's practice. You can raise your hand and turn off your camera, and I will ask you an interview question. And then you'll have 1 to 2 minutes to answer the interview question. After you answer the interview question, I'll give you instant feedback. And so we can practice getting your interview question and answer, getting your interview answers to be the best that they can be. So we're going to start with our very first volunteer. And I'm just looking at the chat. Thank you so much, Ms. Seals, for your kind words. And of course, and Cecilia said, of course, the same thing, question and answers. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. But please raise your hand if you'd like to practice an interview question. We're going to start with the first interview question.
So I want to thank you so much. This is a great presentation. I really, really wish I listened to this presentation before I had to speak in public. I still remember my first PTA meeting and how much I was shaking. If I had done everything you said, I was probably going to do better. Thank you, thank you. So yes, we do have a question from Selena. Sharon has raised her hand, so I'm going to allow you to talk. You should be able to talk, Selena.
Good afternoon, Selena. How are you today?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, Professor Gail. I'm fantastic.
Would you like to answer an interview question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then we're going to go to Victoria. She's going to answer the next question, but we'll start with you, Selena.
Sure.
So, so remember what we learned in the workshop. You want to tell us about yourself in 1 to 2 minutes when answering the questions. So if you could maybe think of something specific from your background that you want to add into the question, to the answer, please feel free, but you've got 1 to 2 minutes to answer. Then
Sure.
after your answer, we'll give you some feedback. Are you ready?
Sure, I'm ready. yeah.
Okay. When balancing multiple projects, how do you keep yourself organized?
Thank you, Professor Gail. This is a great question. As you know, I am a librarian. I work in a public library setting, and we have to work really quickly, and I have to do multitasking. For example, when I'm at the reference desk, I have to look for the book. Maybe one of the client is in front of me. Maybe there is a phone call, ringing, and or maybe a child is crying. So this kind of scenario, we need to do like multitasking work. So first I'll have, pick up the phone and answer the question and then say, can you hold for a second? I have a customer in front of me. And then I kindly, request the customer, can you please hold for a second? I have a baby and mother, like baby is crying. So I'll talk to the mother, like, is there anything I can help you with? And then I will go back to the customer in front of me. So that kind of public setting, we need to work, and we need to be really courteous and patience to work this kind of environment. And also I have my own staff since I am an assistant second in command for one of the branches for public library. So I have to balance my work working in a team environment. For example, we always start the day 5 minutes of talk, like, check our calendar or monthly calendar, what is going on today, something like this. And also, I like to check my email every single day, beginning of my work. Maybe something is very important. For example, yesterday at my workplace, our air condition was broken. So we had to emergency close the branch. And that kind of, multitasking, we always have to keep that in mind when we work, specifically a public setting. And at the same time, we always look forward to have a smooth transaction the day. And we always look forward to have a, almost perfect day. For example, after school kids are coming to the library, most of them are, let's say, kids. They come here for activities, and we do have snack activities. So at the same time, we're doing the activities, someone is doing the activity with the kids, and then we have snack. And then again, there is always like, opportunity to maintain the multitasking job. So when I'm in the floor, I made sure the kids who are playing with the computer, they have the right password, or they are logged into the computer. And also the volunteers are working with the kids, and then also at the snack table. So that kind of stuff, I would say very important to be organized as a supervisor.
Thank you, Selena. Great job. Everyone, if we could clap for Selena, that's awesome.
Thank you.
You did a very good job, Selena. Thank you. You did so many things well. You had actual day-to-day examples. So that is perfect. All of us on the call right now could put ourselves in your shoes. So that's what you want. You want people to be able to experience what you experience. And so that's awesome. And just using those everyday examples, you did a great job. And as far as answering the question about organization, you did a good job as well. You talked about how your job requires multitasking. You're tasked with doing multiple things simultaneously, and how it's a challenge, but how you deal with that daily. So that was great as well. A few areas I'd like for you to do to add to what you said. Add specific references to things that you use on the job. So you talked about how you all coordinate your calendars. Maybe you use Outlook, or maybe you use an app that's specific to library learning. Talk about that. Maybe when you're checking books out, use the name of whatever a tool you use to check books out. Just those names of specific tools will go far on an interview, because a lot of times interviewers have in their mind, they want someone who knows X, Y, and Z. So dropping those names in there might really help you on an interview, especially since you're a librarian. That's a very specific career that you're in. So if you're going for another job as a librarian, they would be looking for those specific skills. They would be looking for you to use those specific tools. And just those great examples of your day-to-day work, great examples of multitasking. And something else that you did well that I was really impressed by, you said, I do this, and then second, I do that. Ordering that kind of order in your answer makes it very easy for the interviewer to follow. So even if they get a little bit, sometimes you're listening to someone and maybe you get a text or something catches your eye and you just get distracted for just a moment. When you structure a question going first, I did this, second this, third this, or finally I did that, that brings the interviewer back to what you're talking about. So even if they just kind of got a little bit distracted for a moment, that'll bring them right back to being present with you in the room. So great job, Selena. And don't leave your job at the library. Great job.
Thank you, Professor Gail. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I was looking forward to listen to your, presentation, and I'm also benefited by this. And I took the screenshot for your presentation. I was wondering, is there any way you can share the presentation with us, or?
Yes, it will
be great.
Yes, it'll be on, well, the entire presentation will be on CWNY's YouTube page. So you can watch the whole thing again, including the PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for volunteering. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And next we're going to hear from Victoria. Hi, Victoria. Are you there with us?
I am.
Hi, we're going to hear from you second instead of first, but we have a question for you. Full disclosure, everyone. Victoria is answering the question, and she may know the question in advance. So Victoria, here's your job interview question. Tell me about yourself and describe your background.
Yes, and before I do, if I could ask the participants to write in the chat when I'm done, whether A, I followed Gail's advice, whether or not I did, and 2, what type of job do you think I'm looking for? Thank you, Gail. So a little bit about my background. I have a bachelor's in Spanish and Italian from Queens College, a master's in education and a doctorate in instructional leadership from St. John's University. I taught English as a second language to adults and high school students, and I mentored over 50 new teachers. I was an adjunct professor at St. John's University and Hunter College Graduate Schools of Education, and a workshop facilitator at international, national, state, and city teachers conferences. Currently, I volunteer at the Center for the Women of New York as a research coordinator, a caregiver support group, and women in crisis support group facilitator, and an ESL instructor. I really do find the volunteer work at a nonprofit very rewarding and full of opportunities to make a difference and learn great new skills. Thank you, Gail, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Victoria. Now, everyone, if you would, in the chat, what type of job is she applying for? And our options were, once again, Victoria, education.
A job in education, working for a nonprofit, or perhaps specifically looking to expand a support group and working in a hotline, some sort of peer support.
Would anyone like to chime in? And you can put your answer in the chat. Was it more of an education job that she was looking for, or was it maybe more of a peer job? Or no chat yet, but I guess people are thinking it over. Did you want to give us a hint, Victoria? Oh wait, we have some chat.
Oh, I'd love to hear if they could guess.
We have with the focus on your educational background, we have someone saying educational, and that's what Stuart said. And Aletta also agrees. Victoria, you're looking for a job in education, and Ron also agrees and said education as well.
That's true. I took an already prepared introduction of myself, which was far lengthier than what you heard. And I said, let me, for the participants, just focus on education. You did hear that loud and clear. But now the next question is, before Gail has an opportunity to give me constructive feedback, did it sound like I paid attention to her tips, or did I just not pay attention and not do anything she suggested? So please, if you could write in the chat that your feedback, was I missing something?
And Pam also said that you're looking for a job in higher education as well.
Interesting. You were more specific, Pam. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So do we think that Victoria followed the pointers that she got today, or do we think that she needs a little bit more fine tuning? Joanne said, yes, you followed them and you did a good job.
Joanne is too kind.
Gloria said, job focus, a group facilitator in a nonprofit of educational setting.
Oh, that's interesting.
Ooh,
That's
Gloria.
Interesting. Interesting.
That is great. Anyone else?
So before Gail lets me know how I can improve, I'm going to tell you that I'm my toughest critic, and having gone through Toastmasters, I always criticize my own work. So I didn't tell a story, and I would like Gail to say how I can improve. I didn't pay attention to her presentation at all.
And Aletta also put that in the chat that she thinks that a story could have been added. So she agreed.
Aletta.
Wow, that's great feedback, Aletta. Yes, I agree. If we could weave that into a story, I think it would be more memorable for the hiring committee, especially in education. A lot of there's thousands of applicants for one job in education, especially in higher education. So you really need to stand out if you get as far as an interview. And that story in the tell me about yourself question would go a very long way. So I don't want to say start at the beginning, but you can go chronologically if you like, starting with education, but make sure that there is a running storyline. So you kind of made a list about things that you've done, your education at Queens College, your education at St. John's, how you were an adjunct in certain places, but tell us, like, how did one thing fold into the next thing? After I finished my undergraduate degree, I realized I wanted to do this, or I had a professor and back at Queens College who, instilled in me this or pointed me in this direction, and that was the direction I went in. Or maybe my next door neighbor pointed me in that direction, but add some sort of personal part of a story in there so that the hiring committee can remember that. Because you're an excellent candidate, so they just need a little story in there.
Yes, nothing about my response was memorable. They wouldn't walk away saying, I'll remember.
She was the pink tutu woman,
Yeah,
right?
no pink tutu in my story. So thank you for those wonderful tips. Thank you.
And Pam also agrees. She said she loves to hear the words, I was born to teach. Then a short anecdote about something from your past. Great feedback, Pam.
Thank you,
And
Pam.
Gloria did say that on the plus side, you were concise and very clear, and you presented yourself as someone who is confident, competent, and who has experience as an educator and also as a facilitator. So well done.
Thank
And
you.
also that you were calm and relaxed. Thanks,
Oh,
Ruth.
I'm shaking right now, Ruth, but I'm glad I fooled you. But I will say that part of my problem was keeping to the 1 to 2 minutes. So I think maybe in the future, I'll care more about the content than the time.
Yeah.
That the content is memorable, that they'll remember something about and connect with something. There was nothing to connect with in what I said.
Yeah.
No connection whatsoever. No personal anecdote.
Exactly. I kind of shy away of telling the story, but on a job interview, I did tell a story about how at a previous job, the students had voluntold me to enter a beauty contest. I kid you not. And so I did it because the students, you know, they dared me to do it. They said, oh, you'll never do it. And they actually said, you know, you're not pretty, and you know, you'll never win, even if you did it. So just to kind of show them that the impossible is kind of possible, I entered a beauty contest, and then I actually ended up winning. But it was only because of, not because based on beauty, it was because of the question, and I really nailed the questions and the answers. So and I looked great in Western wear too. But but that's, you know, that's the story that I told on a job interview about how some students dared me to do something and I did it. And that's the type of story that hiring people who are doing the hiring remember after the fact. So weave that into your stories. Let's see. Would anyone else like to go ahead and answer a question? Is there anyone else, or am I going to have to pose another question to Victoria? Oh, thank you, Aletta. Those are kind words. Yes, a recording of this program will be available on the CWNY's YouTube page, and you can get there at their website as well.
And if I may add, the PowerPoint slides will also be available on the CWNY.org website within a week or so.
Okay. Are there any other volunteers? Victoria, would you like to take one more last question before we end?
Okay.
All right, we're gonna do this for you. All right. Since the pandemic, everyone, this question has become very popular on job interviews. So if you are going on a job interview, if you're thinking about interviewing, please have an answer to this one. It's a new one that's popping up everywhere. So here it goes. Ready, Victoria?
Well, actually, Stuart would like to answer the next question. So Stuart,
Awesome.
listen up.
Thank you, Stuart. All right, here you go. Stuart, what did you do in the last year to improve your knowledge? Stuart, what did you do in the last year to improve your knowledge?
Oh, well, thank you for asking me. It's certainly been an interesting year for all of us, hasn't it? I think in the last year, the number one thing that I've been focusing on is actually making sure that I'm prioritizing time in the way that it should be. So I think during the last year, we've all had this time to slow down and really look at things. And I think that's helped me to focus on not multitasking and to truly look at things as they come. So when I have a priority, to truly give it the time that it needs and really focus on that. I think that's been really valuable. I think it's been valuable in my work being better, but I think it's also very valuable in my personal life being better too, whether that's sitting in a game and watching my son play baseball and being fully focused on him for that moment, not checking my phone, not looking at other things, or whether it's being at work and being fully focused on the event that I'm doing, being focused on what's going on around me and the people that I'm working with. So I think being able to separate those things, being able to lessen multitasking and keep it to when it's necessary, but not all the time, are two things that I've definitely been working on during this year. So yeah, I think it's been a really, that has been a good takeaway during a very difficult year.
Great job, Stuart. Thank you. Let's give some claps, everyone, if you are able. You did so many things well in that answer. So the first thing, you were talking about prioritizing your time. That is excellent. That's something that I think every hiring manager wants to hear, someone who prioritizes their time. And then you talked about how you go about doing that. And you talked about how you give specific attention to tasks instead of trying to multitask all the time. And that's something, I think that's where the trends are going now. We've realized that multitasking is something that we all have to do, but that there are certain tasks that are priority tasks and that they deserve your time and attention. So you addressed that in a very good way. Thank you. You used very specific examples of time with your son. What I would like to hear the next time that you answer this question is giving that type of specific answer on the job with a career or an on the job example as well. So maybe I had a project X, and I was working on that. And I gave that my time and attention, and I realized that, and then that project turned out successful, or that quarter was the best quarter ever, or whatever it is. But I want one specific work example in there as well. Just like you had a specific example about your son, just have a mirroring example at on the job site as well. And then you just covered it. You just came full circle with your answer at the end. So I was really impressed with that. Well done, Stuart. Thank you. And thank you also for volunteering.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for your input. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you did a great job. You're welcome. Thank you. And if there are any further questions, you can put them in the chat. And before I pass this on over, I would like one more time just to thank the Center for the Women of New York, CWNY, for this opportunity today. I really had fun, and it was my pleasure to present today to you on job interviews and public speaking. If you would like to keep in touch, I am Professor Gail Lewis. You can always contact me, glewis@qcc.cuny.edu. And if you would like to learn more about Toastmasters, you can do so by going to toastmasters.org and finding a Toastmasters club either that meets online or one in your neighborhood or maybe near your job. And when you get there, you can, of course, practice public speaking and get feedback on your speaking as well. Thank you again. I'm going to pass this back over to Cecilia and Victoria. Thanks to everyone who came here today. Thank you, Stuart, as well. Thanks for answering a question. I appreciate that. Cecilia?
Thank you so much, Professor Gail Lewis. Like it was an amazing presentation, and I love the interactive portion of it more than anything else. I thought you did a great job, and thank you to everyone that volunteered. Thank you, Victoria, for asking all those questions. I think it's also important to listen. So it's like it's a two-way process. And again, like I know there were some questions regarding the recording and the slides. Everything will be on our website on past events. And our website, if Lana, you can put it in the chat, that would be great. I also want to thank Lana, who's there behind the scenes checking the email in case we get any questions via email. It's CWNY.org. And then you just go to past events. It will take maybe a week or so, as Victoria said. And again, our upcoming events, just in case you would enjoy any of these activities, we have gardening and sustainability workshops. The next sessions are on June 16 and 2023 from 10 to 11. And then this coming Saturday, we have the yoga event. It will be great. It will be outdoors, and there will be 3 yoga instructors from 10 to 12. And the Artivism exhibit that's going on next Saturday. So we will have it open on June 11th and 18th from 1 to 5. If you'd like to become a member, as Gail mentioned before, we always appreciate any support to be able to keep these programs going. They're free for anyone that wants to join us. And you can, like I'm sure Lana put everything in the chat already. Thank you, Lana. We have 2 locations, one in Queensboro Hall, one in Fort Totten, which is in Bayside, Queens. So visit us anytime. And here's our email. address. Thank you again and have a lovely day. We hope you join us again next time we do it. We have a workshop. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.